Hey, what's up, mi gente? It's Anthony Rosa, the community finance coach, aka Mr. Remedy, and you are watching another show on our Money Monday series under Fresh Start Advancement. And I have my co-host, my featured speaker here today, Maria Gesualdi. Maria, thank you so much for joining us on today's Lunch and Learn. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great, Anthony. Thank you so much for having me today. Happy Monday. It's the
Happy
beginning of the
Monday.
week.
Beginning of the week. It's a beautiful day out, and today we're going to be talking about real estate law. And it's a very important conversation. A lot of the people that I work with work in real estate. So whether you are a tenant, you're a landlord, you're an investor, or you just want to learn a little bit more about real estate, I highly suggest that you watch the show today. And so, Maria, why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Well, again, my name's Maria Gesualdi. I've been a real estate attorney since 1991. So I'm dating myself. I'm absolutely passionate about what I do. I'm a full scale real estate attorney, residential, commercial, tenancy. I'm past president of NAREP North New Jersey. I mean, I could go on, but the crux of this today is to educate our clients and take questions if you allow them with regard to real estate investing. And by investing, that means not only means if you own 3 and 4 units and above, but it also applies to someone who owns a 2-family as well with regard to tenant rights.
Yeah, so talk to me about that. During COVID, we had this moratorium, people not paying rent, affecting our landlords. You know, is New Jersey a safe place for landlords? Are they tenant friendly or more landlord friendly? Or is it even a thing?
It's more tenant friendly, to be very candid, but I think the real issue at hand is to do your due diligence, right? We always need to do our due diligence when we're purchasing any property, and especially when we're talking about properties that are inhabited by tenants, and when someone is relying upon that rent roll to reap the benefits from that property. So it's critical that one knows issues like rent control and what their rights are as both a tenant and as a landlord when it comes to tenancies.
So it's really important for investors to do their due diligence within the state prior to purchasing.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, if we have a property that is non-owner occupied, something as simple as a condo, right? And you're buying it as an investment, 9 times out of 10, maybe not 9, but maybe 8 times out of 10, that condo can be rent controlled by statute.
Wow.
So, for example, North Bergen, a condo was rent controlled. Union City, a condo was rent controlled. So, these are really critical pieces of information for a landlord investor when deciding if they're going to purchase a piece of property. And rent control, for anybody who doesn't know, rent control is an ordinance adopted by each municipality that dictates the amount of yearly increases that a landlord can initiate on a property. So if you buy something that's rent controlled and there's a present tenant in there and the rent is low according to what you as the potential buyer might feel, you need to know that next year or when rent control increases are permitted every year, you can only increase the rent not based upon what the true market value of that property could be, but what the city and the ordinance dictates.
That's very important. What are some penalties if they want to just kind of do what they want, so to say, and not follow these ordinances? What can penalties can happen?
Well, the tenant can file a complaint with the rent control board and seek the reimbursement of the rents that are deemed to have been over and above what the statute permits. by the landlord. In fact, I represented a landlord only last month. He had to return about a year and a half's worth of rent that superseded what the rent control ordinance provided.
Wow. So we learn how to raise rent under rent control and learn how to protect yourself from rent control from these landlords that are just not following what they should be following. That's super powerful. And here on the round, what we're trying to do is round this information up easy for someone to be able to watch this. And Maria, thank you so much for your time, right? As an attorney, how long have you been practicing law now?
34 years.
So you know what you're doing, you would say.
I would hope so after this stretch of time. Of course, that's what's great about the law. It's always evolving. There's always new nuances. Every day is a challenge, and every fact situation is different. So that's why I love it so much.
So now for those that are watching, if you're having any struggles or any issues, I highly recommend to reach out to Maria. Maria, I have a friend that she was going through something recently. Talk to me about some of these apartments in New Jersey. You hear it a lot where they're renting basements where they're not allowed to.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked that question. I was thinking about that right now.
You send it to me. You sent it to me.
So folks, listen, if you get caught, you're going to be penalized. Now, everyone says, I need to rent the basement. I need the extra income. My property taxes are so high. I get it, but the law states that you can, depending on the town, but if you buy something that's a legal 2-family, correct? That property is deemed to be legal for 2 residential dwellings, not 3. Even though the basement can easily accommodate another dwelling unit, you are only permitted to rent it for 2. And there are reasons behind that. One of the biggest reason is for fire and safety issues. There have been times over the years where fires tragically happened that killed people living in basements because there were no exit routes from the basement. So 1 is a liability problem. 2, it's a planning and zoning issue. Houses are deemed to be habitable depending on the number of dwelling units, depending on the town's master plan. So it brings into a host of different issues. It brings into issues like parking. Parking is a big problem in a lot of our urban neighborhoods. It brings into density, right? We make the properties more dense, the city's more dense. Density affects school resources. It affects a whole number of municipal and state issues. So I happen to liken renting a basement to running a red light. A lot of people run red lights or speeding, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's legal to run a red light or to speed on the highway. And if you get caught, there are repercussions and penalties associated with that. So let's take the most basic example. A tenant who lives in a basement apartment stops paying you rent.
Oh, no.
What are your next steps?
So let's say we have those that are watching. Can you say that again, that question?
So let's say you rented out an illegal, quote unquote, and it's illegal because it's not a legal use of the basement.
Now the person doesn't know. They sign the lease. They think it's legal. They have no idea that it's an illegal apartment.
A lot of people know, though, Anthony. 9 times out of 10, tenants know.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah. Can I give them the benefit of the doubt?
Huh?
Does it change the course of the action, giving them the benefit of the doubt if they knew or they didn't know?
It really doesn't. No. The penalties are the same regardless of intent or knowledge. So if a tenant doesn't pay you rent, and they won't leave, you as a landlord have to deliver them a statutory notice that they're occupying an illegal unit. And that notice gives them 90 days, equivalent to 3 rental months of time to leave and relocate.
Okay.
During those 3 months, the tenant has no obligation to pay you any rent. So we're starting at a minimum of 3 months lost rent there, right?
What about back rent now? Does that
No,
back rent get
no, you
owed?
cannot recover it. You cannot recover it.
Wow.
Now, if after the 3 months the tenant has not vacated, and let me just go on a tangent. So many municipalities now have attorneys hired by the municipalities who are called tenant advocates. In our urban cities, by and large, every city has one. And a lot of tenants will run to the municipality and seek advice by the tenant advocate, where the tenant advocate will advise them that they have the right, according to state statute, to seek 6 months of rent and relocation assistance. So
It's tough out
let's
here with the rent, and yeah, I would imagine.
It's 3 months of lost rent because you have to give them 3 months notice. Then when they do vacate, they have the right to recoup 6 months of rent. That's 9 months right there. And now let's suppose after those 3 months, the tenant hasn't moved. What is the recourse for a landlord? The recourse for the landlord is to file an action for eviction in Superior Court. And of course, that involves attorney fees and also another waiting time to get before the judge. So an illegal basement apartment or attic, let's talk about an attic too,
Or attic,
can cost a landlord at least a year's worth of rent. So you're actually not making money.
So,
aside from the fact that that tenant can go and report the dwelling to the town or the municipality where they live, and you as a landlord will get a violation by the town with penalties. You'll have to pay a fine to the town. So, what most people think is a simple issue, I'm going to rent my basement apartment for some extra cash, can wind up to be a very costly enterprise.
I don't know how many people will respond to this, but is it worth renting an illegal apartment? Some say yes, take the gamble. I don't know.
It's a risk. It's a risk. I always tell my clients to be very wary and beware.
Right. This is a very important conversation because it's kind of taboo, right? Nobody wants to talk about it, and they're mostly reactive, calling you and saying, "Oh, I got this situation," whether they're a tenant or a landlord. What are some tenant issues that you're finding that how can we protect some tenants? Let's say if there's not things being done in the house, can we just not pay rent to cause a scene? Like, are we allowed to do these things?
So if you're a tenant and there are problems with the apartment, the first thing that you should do is notify your landlord and notify them in writing. Have a record of the notification of the issue. You have mice in the apartment, or the heat's not working, or there's a leak. You need to notify your landlord and give them a reasonable opportunity to remedy the condition. If the situation is not remedied, you can withhold the rent. And you can, a strategy is to withhold the rent, and upon which time usually the landlord will file an action for eviction. The day of the trial, you will need, as a tenant, to have all of the rent ready to deposit in court before the end of that day. Let's suppose you had a problem with your landlord. It was never remedied. You have a really bad slumlord. You get to court and you raise these issues, which are known as the Marini Doctrine, which is the doctrine which provides that a tenant has the right to live in a habitable, safe dwelling. Once these issues are raised to the judge at the time of trial, the judge can, if he determines that the issues are legitimate and deserve a fair hearing, a judge will reschedule for another date and time to hear out the issues that the tenant has complained of, and basically have a trial on the notice issue and what, if anything, was done by the landlord. However, in order to secure that Marini hearing, you as a tenant have to have all of those rents available in hand, and we're talking about cash, to deposit in court before 4:30 that afternoon. Provided you make that deposit into court, you will have the opportunity to dispute the charges for rent, and the judge can make a determination as to a credit for any of those items. So you do have rights as a tenant.
Yeah, I mean, and today we're talking about real estate law, and we started the conversation more probably around landlords and how to protect them from any tenants, and talked about, renting a legal apartment such as an attic or a basement. And now we're talking more about the tenant protection, right? If you have any problems, make a history of them, write it down, and that does allow them to collect back rent. But what you're saying is on that court date, to make sure you have that money there to make the deposit to support your dispute and possibly get a credit.
Correct.
Okay. Wow. And so, today, it's a quick lunch and learn, right? And for anybody who wants to reach out for you for a one-on-one, not sure if your office has consulting fees or anything that, can you talk a little bit about that if someone has and wants from one of these conversations to continue to call with you?
If anybody is seeing this and wants to have a consult, you can call me 201-295-0700. Also on my cell phone, 201-709-4078. I will happily waive any consultation fee, provided you mention having seen the webinar with Anthony Rosa.
Wow. So for those that are watching, you get a consultation free, complimentary from Fresh Start. Thank you, Maria. And that was a call to action. So if you're a landlord, a tenant, an investor, or a possible referral partner, you're looking for another real estate law attorney that has over 30 years experience. Where are you located, Maria?
I'm on Bergenland Avenue, 6800 Bergenland Avenue in Guttenberg, which is really kind of like West New York.
And so anything that you're looking forward to, we have Women's History Month. We have a lot of events. Anything you're looking forward to, Maria?
I'm looking forward to spring, Anthony, to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to the spring market. I think as a female attorney, I feel really grateful that I'm in this business. This is still a pretty male-dominated field.
Changing the narrative.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a small part of changing the real estate narrative as a female.
And you have, and so are you on any organizations? I know you with NAREP as president. What organizations are you a part of now?
Well, I continue to be part of NAREP. Now I coach and mentor 10 chapters throughout the country. In fact, this month we're traveling to DC for the Housing and Policy Convention. I'm also involved in philanthropy. I love to give back to the community. So I sit as a trustee on the Greater Bergen Board Realtor Care Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of GBR. And I'm also a board of director of Habitat for Humanity in Bergen, and happy to announce that this year, actually next week on the 10th, we will be breaking ground on a new build that's going to be taking place in Oradell. So anybody who might be interested in participating in building with Habitat for Humanity, we'll be building all throughout the summer through the fall. Contact me. Giving back feels so good to the community and to everything that gives so much to us. And it's so easy to be kind, I think. It's so much easier to be kind than it is to be mean. And I think we all have a moral responsibility to give back when we can, and I love to do that.
Yeah, so Habitat for Humanity. I don't know if you knew this, Maria. I'm a Rotarian. I'm in the Rutherford Rotary.
Oh, that's right.
I'm a past president,
Yeah.
and philanthropy is huge, near and dear, and I really appreciate you talking about that.
Yeah,
Before
we can't just take. We have to give, Anthony.
I agree. And,
Yep.
and this form of giving right now on this Lunch and Learn is a non-paid promotion, right? Just two friends, that are community advocates, just kind of coming together to provide this information. One thing I did want to touch on a little bit is for investors. What do
Yeah.
you think is a remedy for investors? You talked and mentioned, these new developments. So how do you protect investors from self-sabotage?
Well, the same thing with an investor. They have to do their due diligence regarding rent control ordinances. And more importantly, not only, so it's very important when you're investing and relying on that rent roll to ensure that the rent that's being collected from a tenant is the legally permissible rent. Okay. That requires looking at the rent registration statements. So just because a tenant might be paying $2,300, if the registration that's on file with the town provides that the legal rent is $1,700, guess what? You're opening yourself up to a claim. Right.
Wow.
So you really need to dot the I's and cross the T's. We always need to ensure that the rent that's actually being collected is the legally permissible rent. And then, during time, if the building needs work, we can also make application for a capital improvement increase. So depending on the work that's involved, and we can talk about that, if a landlord spends $200,000, let's say, repointing the building, providing new kitchens, improving the hallway and the foyer, it depends on what they do. But there is a method and a process to make application before the town. Here in our urban area, there is, so that you can seek a capital improvement adjustment to the monthly rent. So
Wow,
you
and
can get a
that was
return.
a gem right there. That was a remedy for if if you're watching on the live, hashtag live. If you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay. Maria, that was a remedy. That was a gem right there that you gave us. And again, thank you so much for just sharing your expertise. I know that there's so much more to this conversation that we can have, but again, on this limited time on the Lunch and Learn, what are your final thoughts, Maria?
My final thoughts are knowledge is power. It's all about educating yourself. And if you don't have the knowledge, reach out to a professional, and not just any attorney, to be honest. I'm an attorney, but for example, I don't practice immigration law. That's not my forte. Reach out to a real estate attorney. If you have real estate questions, don't reach out to an attorney who's a personal injury attorney, or, if I have an orthopedic problem, I would go see a physician who's an orthopedist. So there are many different specialties in the law. Whatever it is that you might need, seek out that person who's a specialist in that field, just like you would for any medical condition.
Right. And so again, I hope that for those that are watching, you enjoyed this Lunch and Learn. Thank you, Maria, for coming on and talking to us about real estate law. And again, I highly recommend for those that are in real estate, rewatch this. And if you have any questions regarding, put it in the, in the comment section below. And as always, we have a closing quote. This is brought to you by Will Rogers. Says, "Don't wait to buy land and wait."
That's a good one.
I wish I said it. Will Rogers said it, so I'll give him the credit. But again, if anybody is having any issues with their credit, any loan officers, any real estate agents, you guys need help pushing your clients past that finish line, please feel free. Please remember our services at Fresh Start. Again, thank you for watching. Go in grace, go in peace. Maria, hang out with me in the afterglow. Don't go anywhere. But for you guys, we'll see you later.
All
Bye,
right. Have a
everybody.
good week, everyone.